Welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited because I have the lovely Tatiana Fecikova today with me. And she's a business mentor to leaders, change makers, and innovators who want to create a legacy and impact that matters. And that basically creates a ripple effect in the lives of many. Hello and welcome to the Successful, Sensitive, and Intuitive Entrepreneur podcast. My name is Lydia Sophia Wilmsen, and I am an intuitive success mentor for sensitive entrepreneurs. In this podcast, I speak about the challenges sensitive and intuitive entrepreneurs face. I offer you new perspectives and solutions, as well as experiences of other entrepreneurs. Plus, I speak about my personal experience of being a highly sensitive person who has successfully built and scaled 2 businesses. All of that with the goal to make you and your business even more successful in your very unique and authentic way. Have fun and enjoy. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you?
I'm excited. Thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast. So I'm honored.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about the topic we have picked today about money mindset. But first, as usual, I just would love to hear a little bit from you. Like, who are you? What's your story? What do you do?
So if you go back, I don't want to go obviously too much into detail. So I originally come from Slovakia, and I left my country when I was 18, originally first to Germany and then to England. And obviously, as we are talking about money today, I grew up pretty poor, but somehow I always wanted to explore, and that wasn't really known back then. People would just, let's have a good school, let's have a good grades, go to university, find a nice job, get married. And my parents obviously wanted to have better future for me. So they wanted me to go to uni, but as soon as I was 18, I was just like, let's explore the world. So I left and I was like, let's see what's out there. And then 14 years later, I think it was when I was in England, and I was sitting and I was thinking, what are you doing? You have been 14 years out and you haven't achieved anything. I just felt so disappointed in myself because I thought I could do better. Yeah. So that really gave me kind of like aha moment, like, okay, what do I want to do now? And that brought me to the personal development world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then you started out there. I think you also at some point started out in the coaching industry. And what is your main focus nowadays? Is it still personal development? Is it investing?
For me, I think I always knew internally, especially I've got the kind of personality, like when you do a values exercise, and if people who are listening to your podcast have not done that yet, I cannot stress enough how important it is to know what really is important to you personally, rather than following other people's formulas and stuff, because they might not align with your own values and what's important to you. So when I did my values exercise, one of them was obviously also variety and change and growth. So I always knew that I want to do different things, not split focus. Mm-hmm. But I knew that personal development and coaching, or mentoring, should I say, will be part of something bigger that is in my kind of journey, life journey, where I want to go. Mm-hmm. So I think personal development for me is just part of what I will be doing. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as we know, I started to look into investments now as well, because I really feel if you're an entrepreneur, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, and you should diversify.
Yeah. Yeah, you have already mentioned quite a lot that I really want to go deeper in today. And it's always in the beginning of interviews, it's like, where shall I start? Like, I have questions to this thing, what you just said, and to that. So I think I would like to start a little bit more with your values. Like you said, variety, and the second one was growth, or what was?
Right, so for my values, and this is probably good to keep in mind. So when I started, and obviously, at the time, had completely different mindset. I didn't know anyone who was doing this kind of stuff. If something was really alien for me, I remember first time I came across it was I was working in a music venue, and I was reading a paper, and someone was like working in Bali on a computer, and I was like, what? People like exist? Where do they live? Where can I find them? Because I didn't know anyone like that. In fact, I actually knew only people who would be really scared to do something like this. So it was quite hard at the beginning because I didn't have any kind of support system. So I had to go out and find them, which actually was one of my biggest fears to overcome as an introvert, an empath, and sensitive person, as you've got podcasts about, about this kind of stuff. And I remember I made myself to go to networking events, and I used to hide in the toilets. I was sweating so badly, but I still done it because it was my focus to overcome that. So, like one lesson is to surround yourself with people who show you opportunities and possibilities. So the values exercise, when I first time started, I didn't know what coaching or mentoring was at all. I actually had to Google it. And I didn't really know myself at all. I was just going with what was given to me, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like wherever life took me, I was just going with it rather than actually actively doing something and being proactive in changing my path to where I would like to be. So I've done my values exercise, and my first business idea actually was decluttering, because I like to declutter. But I knew quite early on, when I've done my first test client, it's not going to work, because my number one value, which was freedom,
okay,
wasn't included, even though the other four were. But the most important one wasn't. So I knew straight away, scrap the idea, it's not going to work. You're going to save yourself lots of pain. Yeah. So my values, how I've done it, if people would like to do it, you can just go on the internet and just put, like values exercise into Google, and it will show you some words, and just pick up the trick here is to pick up the first 3 and 5 most important ones, and in order. So let's say for me, the first one is freedom, the second one is impact, and there is change and variety and exploration and discovery. And how you go on about it is, okay, so if I had, for example, change, but I wouldn't have freedom, would it be okay with me? And then you say, no, actually, freedom's more important to me. So it goes up. So it needs to be in order of the importance to you as well.
Okay. So freedom is still your number one, basically.
Yeah, always. As an Aquarian, freedom and independence is really important to us.
It's like the biggest ever. Yeah, I love that. And I also love what you shared about in the beginning, you weren't really proactive on your path. You basically, like, stuff was thrown at you and then you followed it. And I think it's still, like, now that you're more on your entrepreneurial path, it is still for the independence, it's still a very important difference, because many people get thrown stuff at them and they don't act upon them. So I think it is, like, amazing also for people who struggle with that, who say, like, I'm never active by myself. Yeah, you still can create amazing things with that. So I just wanted to point this out for everyone in the audience as well, that if you follow what is thrown at you in a way like you did, you can still end up in a beautiful place. And perhaps, like, the next question would be, because you touched on mindset already, and coming from a poor place, coming from a place, especially in Eastern countries, I've heard this more often, like, it's very like, you have to follow this path and university, marry, and all of that. And you didn't do that. So was it still a struggle for you to overcome this mindset, because you were born into that? So even though we do something totally different, it was still part of you. How did that go?
I mean, when I fast forward to now, overcoming that money mindset I had, for example, just like one level of all the different things we have to go through, I actually realized that I have broken our generational lineage of being poor. Like, I'm probably the only female in our kind of, and that's quite hard to break, because you always carry those beliefs, like, oh, be worried about money, like everyone who is rich is stealing, and all this kind of like, oh, it's not for me, it's only, I'm a normal person, it's only for those people who are lucky, not realizing that actually we are not being taught, at school we are being taught book smarts, but we are not being taught financial smarts, how to deal with money. No one teaches you about that. So that was quite hard to break, because all I knew when I went abroad, obviously I started in like small paying jobs like au pair, where you used to earn like 300 euros a month. I mean, can you imagine like live out of 300 euros a month? Or, like when I came here, I think it was around 70 pounds a week.
Crazy.
And I still managed to save $2,000 in 8 months.
Yeah. So what was it in you? Because this is really amazing that you basically went from being in debt and creating the mindset to invest, like to have money on the side, to build wealth on the side, to invest. Like, what do you think has been the main shift that this is possible?
For me, obviously, like what we said, I was being reactive to the environment, like, oh, let's just take what's given to me and hope for the best. And I really started to think, like, are we given our, our life? How is it going to be for us? Or do we actually create our own path? And I was like, oh, let's just have fun with it and experiment. Because what I realized I was doing, I was living in like shared houses with like 10 people. They were, like you would find like pubic hair in a bathroom.
Oh, don't say that.
people would steal your food, and stuff like that. So it was horrible. So I was just like, I don't want to live like that. Yeah. So I really wanted to better the life standard, like I had. And it was really hard because I didn't think I deserved it. And also when I came here, I was always told like, oh, you are Eastern European, even though we are Central Europe, never mind. Like you are Eastern European, all you can do is work for minimum wage and clean underpath toilets and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. And I actually believed that for the first year and so. But then I was like, no, surely, I came abroad to have better future, to explore what's out there I might not know about. So it's like being thrown into unknown, you have to learn new language, new mindset, because different cultures, different kind of behavior sometimes. And I embrace it, but I was actually fed up with like always keeping on the lower end of it, like always being poor and being okay with it. Like when I was spending whatever I earned, I used to be like, okay, so let's go and buy this. And then next week I will make up for it because this is how much I will get paid.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And every month would be just like, this is how much you get paid. This is how much goes out, There was like nothing left. So I wanted to change my mindset because when I signed up for the first course, and it wasn't actually cheap course at all. I think it was
like personal development course,
yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really at that time, my mindset was like, oh, I won't even buy trainers for me until it's like falling apart and it's only like £30, for example. Yet I signed up for course, which was around 10K in payment plans because I couldn't obviously afford that much. I didn't have that much money in my account. And yeah, I was just hoping I will make my business happen at the time. And it will come back to me. However, I didn't have strong foundations of mindset, the energy work. I didn't know myself. And I think 6 months later, really burned out like on all levels and took a step back completely from everything because I was at a place where I really thought I couldn't even speak properly. It was like really bad. I literally went just like burned out on all levels.
Okay. So what I like, two things I'm hearing. Like the one thing is what helped you break the mindset was probably part of your, or change the mindset was probably part of this, one of your values of exploration. Like you are like just curious in nature and like a little bit of stubbornness of like, I don't want to live like that. Like, you changed countries, you wanted to break that pattern. And in the end, you just found yourself in the same place, just in a different country. And then you made it work. So And the other thing now that obviously if you keep doing that or if you start that work, you can end in burnout. So the next question obviously would be, how did you get yourself out there? Like, what was it then? Was it still the explorative mind, or did you come across like one thing, like one specific, like first you did the value exercise. Did you come across another exercise that then helped you to get out of that, or a person? What was it then?
At that time, I stepped back, and I was working on myself because I really felt like internally I have to get myself okay. Yeah. And I think this is like quite important step. Lots of people miss, when they start their own business, they just like rush into something without building proper foundations on all levels, like, spiritual, mental, physical, like financial. We really have to build like strong foundation, and we have to like overcome our own limitations in order to be able to actually help someone else. If we cannot help ourselves, how can you help others on the same level? So what actually helped me was, with all the investing into the courses and obviously then taking a step back and not earning enough at the time, I found myself going into debts, which I chose to ignore.
Okay.
That's when we put like our head into the sand. However, it's not going to go away. So we can probably go into it later. But what actually was like, I think, breaking point for me was, I remember I was looking back, like we said, I've been here 14 years. What did I achieve? Like, I was so disappointed in myself, but without judgment, I just felt sad for myself. Like, is this what you wanted, what you want to do in next 10 years? Like, it's time to change. So I think that was like that kind of moment for me. And the breaking point for me, it's quite fun. We go between point A to point B and we are quite comfortable until we go to point C. Yeah. And mine was when I got the debt letter through.
Okay.
So that was like that breaking point, like, wow, how did I get to this point? Like, this was like, this is unacceptable. I seriously need to do something about this.
And okay, more questions coming up. However, just explain a little bit what means a debt letter?
Okay, so debt letter basically meant when I got my credit card so I can afford to get those courses I wanted, they were maxed out, they were over limit. And when the bank was calling me or, writing to me, I've chosen not to pick up the phone as if it would go away. And debt letter basically means when the bank moves your debt into debt company, and this is serious because now they can come and start to take your assets.
Okay.
And so basically I got the letter and I was like, oh no, like, how did you get yourself to this point? And I was just, so that was my breaking point to breakthrough point. I literally, the second I've seen the letter, I went upstairs, made a spreadsheet of all the money I owned, called the debt company.
Even though you hated calling.
Called the debt company, and I actually set up like a payment plan with them every month. I couldn't afford a lot at the time. It was only like £20 a month, but that's at least beginning. It's taking action towards, what you want rather than, So that was my breakthrough point when I was just like, something needs to change, because at that time I was so badly in a financial situation and I really didn't see a way out. If it wasn't for my housemate, I wouldn't be eating because I couldn't afford food. And there was seriously like twice a situation where I was thinking like, I'll have to go home because I cannot afford to pay the rent. I don't want to get, become homeless, because I would have done. Yeah. So that would be like kind of easy way out of it, because I could have easily gone home and just lived back with my parents. But that wasn't an option for me. So option B in my head didn't exist. There was only option A, like, get yourself out of this.
Yeah, and I love that that what you mentioned. Like, it's not about putting your head into the sand and pretending it's not there. Like, you became this way, or you got this wake-up call of this letter that actually people are going, like, you can put your head into the sand. However, people are going to come to your house and take things away from the house. So it's actually like, if you don't do anything, they will do something. So there's not an option anymore. And that you said you had to, or that you in that moment, or in general, I think in every breaking point, breaking through point or breaking point. Like your job is or not your job, what helps you to change that is taking like a tiny action. And if it's just like what you said, 20 euros, which is nothing. I don't know what your debt was. However, 20 euros a month, that's like 200 euros a year, so it's not changing a lot. However, it's not about the amount of money. It's like the tiny action into the direction where you're headed, like where you want to be. I think it's such a tiny sentence, and it has everything in there. Can you explain a bit more around that?
I remember at that time I was on the phone to my friend, and because quite often we think from the situation we are in, and that's all we see, because obviously we see like, oh my God, how am I going to pay next month's rent? How am I going to X, Y, Z? And if we think from that point of view, which is normal for us to think because that's all we see. And I was talking to my friend, and I remember when I finished the call, I was like, what am I worried about? When I go back and look on certain situations when they were quite, desperate, nothing bad really happened. I always somehow overcame it, or there was like kind of opportunity that might have come that would help me to not be in that desperate situation. So I realized I was born survivor, and that actually gave me also courage to actually be able to take myself out of that situation and as if look from the outside, not to be like emotionally attached to it, which is really hard to do, obviously. So that helped me to realize that I can get myself out of it. And also, as you said, had I thought about, because my debt was around 5-figure debt, and at the time how much I was earning would take me at least 10 years to pay it off. Had I been thinking like that, and I had at the beginning, because I was like, oh my God, this is going to take me like 10 years to pay off. How am I going to do that? But then I was thinking, you know what? You don't know what's going to happen in 6 months' time. Maybe there will be new opportunities. You can make different things happen. Like that also happened, obviously. But that helped me to shift my mindset, to look more into empowerment rather than the lack of it. Yeah. And I literally decided at that point, I'm going to concentrate. It's like kind of becoming delusional, but embodying the abundance rather than the lack. So I was aware of like bills are coming, I need to pay them. So it's not like I wasn't aware of it. But I decided, instead of like, all this money's coming out and thinking in a way of lack and really low, I decided to concentrate on the abundance. So I created like a spreadsheet, and I was tracking, I think it was from Dennis Duffield Thomas, like you've got spreadsheet and you track your physical money and your value. So let's say someone would invite you for coffee. This is not what you paid for. So it's like, so I started to concentrate on what's coming in rather than what's going out. And within a month, literally, I managed to pay off 1/10 of the debt straight away. So new opportunities came in, I got more opportunities to make money and stuff like that. And I didn't feel I have to sacrifice anything in order to, have to pay the debt. I was just going with the flow, and I was paying what I could afford, even though I did concentrate first few months, especially, on paying as much as I could. And then I just left, I increased my monthly payments into that company. So, yeah. So, and then actually, because of that change of mindset, concentrating on abundance rather than on a lack, I managed to pay off my debt within 2 years something. Mm-hmm. So, and then now obviously we are into investing. So,
Yeah. So let me summarize what I heard, because I think it's pretty powerful, and it's not only for people who have debt. I think it's also for people, because I work with people, with clients who already have 7 figures in the bank, and they can still fall into lack mindset. So they have all the money, they could buy whatever they want, and they just have like bigger bills, or they just question, they don't see it as like, wow, I have that. So I think what you described like perfectly or powerfully is that it starts inside of you. So not only not looking at, and it doesn't mean that you don't track that. It just means that's not your point of focus, like what is going out of the bank account. You focus on what's coming in, and also what's coming in, not in form of money that I make, But for example, what you said, someone invites you for dinner, or someone perhaps like you can, I don't know, like for everyone who's struggling with that, what comes to my mind, like a friend who helps me with support, basically coaching, like someone who talks, gives you some advice, and you could say half an hour of support. Yeah, it can be 500 euros. So I think it's beautiful to calculate that and rather think in value and and focus on that. And I think you're a powerful example of how that shifts in a matter, like in 1 month. That does, like, I think that's another important message there. It does not need to take long. Like this shift for you happened in a month. So that's beautiful.
Yes. And also, like what you mentioned, obviously, like we track value, what it helped me realize I was asking for like 2K a month, and I didn't realize I was actually getting much more than that, as you said. I mean, I got like a free course, which was worth over 2K, and then I've seen like, oh my God, like I'm actually getting in a month much more. Fair enough, it was mostly in value. So later on, I wanted to transfer value into physical financial, obviously. But at the beginning, it's good to actually help to see that you might be getting more than you realize you are. So it was switching my mindset more to see the abundance coming in and, like the value and money kind of financial things coming in rather than it, not being there. And that really helped to like raise the vibration and my kind of mindset, and also therefore attracted more opportunities.
Yeah, because there is the saying like money comes to people who have money or something like that. So that's what you just said, like focusing on abundance brings you more opportunities, or it brings you more opportunities and you become aware of them. I think we all have those opportunities, and it's not luck. It is like that we have to become aware of them and actually act upon them. So, and I also have a question about around the foundations. However, first a little bit about how you shifted it then into investments, because you could have said, okay, now I'm done. I paid off my debt in 2 years instead of like 15 years. So all good. And how, like, what happened that then you thought like, what do I do with my money now? How did that go?
So for me, and this is the thing, not consciously at the beginning, because obviously I think it's like Maslow's hierarchy of ideas. When you're on the bottom level, when you are in survival level, when you cannot afford to buy food or rent, or pay your rent, it's hard to think being in that fifth level where you think about investments. Of course, when you're in a survival level, you think about survival. So like it's also good for us to not be judgmental about that and realize that even though from the point of now it might look like it's going to take decades, it's not, because you will speed up the process if you start to concentrate on step by step in front of you. Because, like even with like we said, I could only afford to pay £20 a month originally. But because I started, eventually it all added up, and then I was able to pay it all in one go. And my kind of plan, I think unintentionally and subconsciously, what I had in mind, okay, I will concentrate first 2 years on paying off debt. Then next year, because I had no savings, start savings. And then year after, start investments. And this is actually funny enough how it exactly happened. When I look back now, it's exactly how it happened. However, I wasn't attached to it. I wasn't thinking about it every day. It was like I had an intention, I embodied it, became part of me, and then I let it go.
Love that.
And I think, quite often, especially people in our kind of industry, when they talk about manifesting and law of attraction and so on, I don't study much of it, but I do believe you have to first be it to see it. So like we said, you have to be it to see it. So for me, like when I wanted to get out of the debt, I had to completely switch my mindset, regardless of what my physical environment on the outside was telling me, because it was the opposite of what I was actually thinking. I truly embodied abundance, and every day I was practicing it, not consciously, it just became part of me. Sometimes we have to do it consciously, stop ourselves, like, oh, I'm sleeping again. But for me, it was quite easy. I just decided, and then I went with it. It's the same with love, Quite often when people look for, I want someone to love me. If you don't love yourself first, how do you expect someone else to show you that which you don't have on the inside. So I think that's quite important to mention, that you have to first be it, and it will be reflected to you quite quickly.
And also in the other way around, right? Like people who then focus on lack, they can easily lose millions in an instant and go broke. Like that's, I think, what they say about those people who win millions, like in the lottery, but they lose it in like 90% lose it in the first year. Yeah, because of that, they can't hold it on an energetic level. Like they are not an embodiment of that money, so it leaves them again. So I think it's powerful also if you want to go like to the next level, to 7 figures, to 8 figures. It is not so much the strategy and all of that. It is really like, can you embody that? And I would love some more ideas from you. How did you embody abundance? Like, did you have any practices, like you did the value things, or also how you do that now? If you have this idea, I want to invest like 10K, 20K, 100K, whatever. What are parts of your abundance embodiment? How to embody? It's a big question for everyone. How do you do that if you like?
It's quite funny because people do ask me, like, give me 7 steps to X, Y, Z. And I'm just like, no, like for me, I was like, okay, maybe if I really thought about it, there are some steps. Obviously there might be. But for me, what I like to do for me, what's important is make it easy and simplified. Not to be lazy about it, but I've burned out twice. So for me now it's like about easy and simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay. Sometimes people go into this, we call it spiritual masturbation kind of thing, like, oh, let's like do it for next 10 years. What's wrong with me? And let's do this and so on. For me, it's just like simple. What I do, I sit down, I decide, embody it, takes a few seconds, becomes part of me, I let it go. No attachment. And then I take action according to that. So be proactive, as you said, rather than reactive to it.
Mm. Okay. So you basically, I guess it depends on what you are. Like if you're a visual person, you sit down, you probably visualize yourself doing that. Or like some people use music. I think we spoke about this once, like what helps you to get into the vibe, use music, some people do like to listen to meditation music or affirmations and like find your way of how you can feel this in your body.
Yeah. I would say always, like you said, everyone's different. We are all unique in our own way. So different things can work for different people, as you said. Because like for me, when I started this, I remember when I was introduced to affirmations and visualizations, and I've done it all. I imagine myself swimming in the money. I imagine myself, like when you've got these visual pictures of you are in a bed and making snow angels, but you do money angels. And none of it worked because I didn't believe in it. And this is, something that you cannot overwrite what you truly believe, and I really didn't believe it. I was like, I'm doing all these exercises I'm being told to do and none of it is working because I didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
So, what I did for me when I decided to concentrate on abundance, I literally was like, this is my focus. So I would find a penny on the street. And quite often we see, like, oh, it's just copper. Like, who cares about 1 penny? But money doesn't care. Mm-hmm. Money's vibration. It doesn't matter if it's 1 penny or 1 million. Money doesn't care. It's still money. So if we dismiss what's actually, like someone's giving us a sign, there is money coming to you because you just found something. If you dismiss that, why would life and universe or God, provide for you anymore if you're dismissing it?
Yeah.
So money doesn't really care. So for me, whether it was 1 penny or not, I always concentrated on the abundance. I was like, oh, I found a penny. I was like, thank you very much. And then also like one thing I was also told, and I believed for a bit, was like, spend and you will get more. So of course I was spending like there is no tomorrow. However, nothing was coming in because I didn't have the mindset for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like that was obviously also an issue when I got myself into debt. And I realized like, no, you have to not spend, but give.
Yeah.
With your heart in it. So for example, I remember when I didn't have lots of money, I was walking and I found a homeless person sleeping on a bench. And I only had an apple and yogurt or something in my bag. So I left him an apple and I wrote like a note, like, like gift from an angel, next to him. And I just put it on his bag and left. And then funny enough, next day, I got like extra tip in the music venue. I used to, because I give from the heart, not out of like, oh, I'm giving because I will get more. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. It has to be truly, truly embodied and truly from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like the thing, what you said before, like you have to believe it. And this is where people fuck it up, basically. Like they think, oh, I just have to follow this routine or that strategy or this manifestation process. And if you don't fully believe it, that's the work for you to do. And this is basically with the shift you did, I think, like with the decision, I'm going to do it and I focus on abundance. And if it's just like the 1 cent I find in the street, I'm going to honor that. And I think it's super nice, like this, like follow the impulses, like also to not dismiss those. Like it's not, don't dismiss the money, and also don't dismiss the impulses you get, like the ideas, the inspired ideas, because it's not like now I go out and give money to every homeless person in the street. This wasn't your plan. Your plan, like there was no plan. It was in that moment that you had this inspired idea and you followed it. And then obviously also tracking, like seeing the evidence again, like, yeah, thank you for the abundance. Oh, wow. I gave from my heart. Thank you for the abundance. Like, this is at least how I understand it. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So perhaps a little bit more. No, I do want to ask the question around the foundations, because you said, and you have worked with many entrepreneurs, many, you read countless books also on financial stuff, on mindset, on everything. Like you're just amazing how much into depth you go with everything. And you say like a business has to have like different foundations, like spiritual, financial, probably strategies, how to keep going. Like, can you explain a little bit more around business health and how to build those foundations? Just some ideas.
Yeah, so like I would say again, like similar to my story of the debt to, being able now to invest. It's also, like we said, take it in your own pace, and start somewhere, because sometimes it's good, okay, I want to be there. Maybe back engineer, where do you need to start? And be okay with starting somewhere. Do not judge yourself on it. And just take it at your own pace. I often see people saying, yes, but this person is X, Y, Z much faster. Do not compare your beginning to someone's middle, or, you can't, because everyone's story is a bit different. And quite often what we see, especially online, we don't see what was before that. They might have been, working on themselves for years prior to where they are now. And quite often people don't understand it. So,
Start somewhere.
Yeah, start at your point, just start and be okay at starting somewhere. And obviously, you cannot invest if you don't have anything in a pot, let's say. So one good thing that's probably really good, I would recommend to read. I only read it last year, I think. It was Profit First. And I actually didn't realize I'm doing it myself already in some kind of way, intuitively. So for me, for example, what I did, and again, step by step, I could never do it right at the beginning. I heard of this concept of 5 jars years and years ago. And at the time, I didn't have that mindset. So for me, it was just overwhelming thinking about 5 jars. So basically, you've got like different, like envelopes. If your parents had envelopes, like this is envelope for bills, this is envelope for savings, this is envelope for XYZ. So that was kind of concept for that. And for me, it just felt overwhelming. Like, how do you open 5 accounts straight at the same time? I couldn't do it. So I did it in my own pace. So first, like we said, I got rid of the debts. Then I opened, I had my normal account, business account, and then saving account. And obviously the credit card. And then later on, I opened, so I don't worry where to find money for the tax. I opened the tax account. So every month I've got automated standing order going there. So when it comes to paying taxes, I already have the money and don't have to worry about it. And then I opened the investment account. So again, every month I have standing order going there. And when I find something that speaks to me, and obviously educate myself on it, because I think we always have to educate ourselves on stuff, not to just fall straight into something we don't know what we are doing. And that, like that account is basically just purely for investments, nothing else, just investments. And last year I opened actually an account for travel and fun. However, obviously with nowadays coronavirus restrictions, we can't do that. But by the time we are allowed to travel again safely, at least I will have enough money. I'm not going to take money out of my personal account. It will be saved separately. So, yeah. So I think, what I would recommend for people to do is first, wealth creation. So first, when you're working on your business or in your business, when it starts to be profitable, it's important to think about wealth creation and personal wealth creation later on, because there is difference between having money in your business pot and then also paying yourself. Yeah. So, it's a business is profitable. That's great. So make your business profitable, but also, at the same time, concentrate on creating your personal wealth. And then when you do have enough money, then you can start to think about, okay, wealth retention. Like you said, we know lots of people, we have been across them, I've done it myself, where we've got money or don't have money. I was like, oh, let's buy this. And somehow just money disappears. Out of interest, I actually went recently into my saving account. I didn't realize I opened it in 2010. And 8 years later, I'm not kidding you, Lydia, I had £1 on it. £1 after 8 years, because I was constantly doing what I was used to doing. £50 in, £50 out, because I need to pay my bills, because I need to pay my XYZ. I didn't realize I was doing it. I was shocked when I looked into it. I was like, wow. So, you really have to be determined, whatever you can afford to put, even if you only start with £10 a month, it doesn't matter. It's the action of it. Start small if you need to. You can always increase later. But my focus was, and I would recommend, this is the account only for savings. Do not touch it. It's not going to be touched. It's not going to be moved around. And then you will start to see it accumulate and get bigger. And it's going to bring you, joy and celebration. So, yeah. So I would recommend, have focus, be proactive, and concentrate on increasing your wealth. So wealth creation, wealth retention, and once when you've got that, wealth leverage. Mm-hmm. And this is where you probably will go into investments and, diversify your portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super interesting. And I think you also once mentioned that to me, that many businesses don't take proper care of that. And I think this is especially smaller businesses, so many of them are not in the black numbers. And I think it's very important. And yeah, many people like to put their heads into the sand instead of addressing it. So I think what you said, also this idea, just start small, even wherever you are with your business right now, whatever level you're on. So many people, as we said, make 7 figures, 8 figures, and they are still in red numbers. So it doesn't mean how much you make. It is really about wealth creation and wealth retention. And then later on leverage, and start small. And if it's just 10 euros a month, and especially that book, I'm also going to put it into the comments, the Profit First book. It also changed a lot for my business. It changed a lot for the business I built with my parents, the art gallery, because it shifts the focus away from, it shifts the focus on basically the principle of paying yourself first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we always think about, where are our responsibilities, i.e. bills, our team members, we need to pay, and so on and so on. But where are we? Yeah. If you do not take care of yourself first, how can you take care of everything else? Yeah. So it's good to keep in mind, you need to pay yourself first, and then you can think about different things. Yeah.
And I have like just 2 questions left. Obviously, it would be super interesting to go more into like money mindset and all of that. Like you could talk for ages. The one thing is that we already spoke about that, like basically for a long time, you followed the path of not being active yourself. I know you worked amazing jobs. You are amazing at what you do. And you have been like to other coaches, for example, like in assistant roles, and you basically run like business of other people. And how did you, like all the past basically 20 years or 15 years since you basically came to the UK with the idea like, I want to have something different for my life. And then, the time passing, you're not doing a lot about it. How have you kept the spark alive? And I'm asking because I know many people out there, like there are many people who procrastinate a lot, and they like, what can you tell them to keep the flame alive and the vision alive, or bring it back to life?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, like, as you said, obviously I fell into it as well when I was still working. I think I always had, even my mom said, I will never be good working for someone else, because I just had that kind of personality. And I think I always knew I wanted to create something for myself. But over the years, obviously, when you work for someone, when I was in Germany, worked for someone, then, I was au pair here, then in the UK, then I was working in music venues. So yeah, you start to get more kind of employee mindset. But I still had this kind of, I could feel there was like a, how would you say, this repetency, between where I was and what I felt on inside. It was slowly killing me. I still remember writing like little notes, like, please rescue me from here. I hate this. But I wasn't doing anything. So, like eventually I had to realize it's up to me. And I did get lost a bit into slowly not being myself. And I really felt at some point like I completely lost, as if I lost myself, my soul. And it wasn't me. It was just like my body, but I was out of it. Like kind of, I just didn't feel like being me. And I had to really step back and think about like, hold on, what do you want? Whether it's hard or easy, where do you want to be? Regardless of what is your situation in that stuff. So I think it's always good to reconnect with yourself. So if you need to step back, rather than having all this noise of other people around you, it's sometimes good, especially for us introverts, to step back, maybe take time off for yourself and just sit in quiet and just think about, like, really go deep down. Because sometimes we forbid ourselves to dream because we don't think it's for us. So we just get okay with what's given to us. But then we feel unhappy, unfulfilled, misaligned, and we start to feel depressed. And, you need to know, how do you want to feel? And then take steps forward to that. And just because you might be working for someone or with someone, you keep your own individuality, you work on yourself. You need to realize that you are still your own individual. And when you connect to your heart and really listen to yourself, the more and more you will feel connected to your inner world rather than to someone else's world, if it makes sense. So you can still work with someone, or, do JV partnerships or work for someone, but you're your own person, like work towards what you truly want, and then focus and follow your own path, not someone else's path.
I love that. It's basically also this embodiment thing about abundance before, and now you embody basically your vision, and then it can come much quicker than what other people would think, and follow your own,
you stay your own person, quite often it's like we give ourselves away to something or someone else. However, we need to realize that it's like we're splitting our wholeness into parts. So how can you become whole again? Because, if you give part of yourself away, it might start to feel like something's missing.
Yeah.
So just bring that part back into yourself and really follow like what you truly wish to achieve in life. And that's fine if someone's working always for someone else. That's fine. We are all different, you know. It's completely okay. It's just, for me, I always knew I wanted to create something for myself.
Yeah, something bigger, and as we said, like a ripple effect in other people's lives. I love that. And the last question, or the second last question, like you already mentioned this, being an introvert and taking really the time for yourself and focusing on what I want instead of getting lost in the lives and the ideas of other people. What are just some more tips and thoughts for introverts, for highly sensitive people, for empaths? How to stay aligned with your own path, how to build wealth, like whatever. Like, are there any specific tips and tricks you have for this population?
For this population, I mean, first of all, I would say what helped me is that I used to always think that being an introvert is a disadvantage. And therefore, I thought, you know, it's harder for me to, you know, like, be on the stages and be visible and so on and so on. And that's not true, you know, like, as we need to tap into if we introverts and empaths and sensitives, we've got so many gifts. And when we start to see them as gifts, quite often if we don't, I mean, I know some people, some family members, you know, they are really highly sensitive. However, they are not embracing the gift of it. They are projecting, and therefore they are practicing the shadow side of being sensitive rather than embracing it as a gift, and actually realize it's making them more special because, well, not special, but unique in their own uniqueness. So as an introvert, what I did, I would say as an introvert, really, rather than giving your power away, like really, it's nearly like sucking back into yourself and work on yourself, like listen to your body, what you need to do to strengthen your own vibration. Because when you do, and quite often as, you know, empaths, people are like latching, we can feel people. However, if your vibration is really high, those lower vibrations have no way to latch onto you. They cannot hook on you or cord on you. It's not possible.
Yep.
So, you know, like, unless you allow something to affect you, it's not going to affect you. So, and I didn't know that back then. I would, you know, walk into the room and suddenly I would feel super angry or super sad. But because it was such a big difference to how I just felt a second ago, I knew it wasn't mine, it was someone else's. So I was like, okay, this is not mine. I stopped identifying myself with that.
Yeah.
There is a difference if it's really subtle. You know, sometimes we do really think it's ours and it's not. So we just need to look into it and look like, is this mine or might it be someone else's? And I mean, there are exercises if people want to go as spiritual or as energetic as they want to. You know, like with introverts, quite often is about recharge yourself. If you always give, we need to often recharge. It doesn't mean that we don't like being around people. You know, like we both introverts, we like to connect, deeply meaningful connections. But I also need to step back and recharge. You know, I love my own space. I love peace and quiet. And then I feel recharged and I'm okay to go into the world again. Otherwise, the world's not going to get buzzed out of me because, yeah, there will be like the shadow sides of my introversion coming out, like, leave me alone. And I would also say, look into your life, and that goes for money and anything else. Declutter. And I mean physical space, financials, you know, what you need to let go of, limitations, if there are any limitations in your mind, limiting beliefs, people. Surround yourself. You are approximate of 5 people you spend your most time with. And it's the same for your wealth. What I once heard, and that actually was like, oh, interesting. Who do I spend most time with? Your net worth is similar to approximate of 5 people you spend most time with. So look at people you surround yourself with. If people bring you down and it's making you feel worse, then, you know, look for people who will empower you and who will cheer you on, who will support you. And that will also help you to raise vibration.
Yeah, I love that. So much gold in there, dear Tatiana. And we are coming to an end because of the time of 1 hour usually. So much in there. I don't really want to pick a specific topic. I would just love like your biggest takeaway for the audience, like the one or the 3 last big tips you want to give. Like what do you want to leave the audience with?
As a specific kind of question, or just
in general, like your last thoughts, tips, tricks?
Just to summarize. Okay, so we could probably go into what can help, like when really struggling to going to the next level, regardless, like we said, regardless if it's money, relationships, introvert, being an empath and stuff like that. So definitely look into declutter, and we're talking about, again, people, limiting beliefs and stuff like that. Then, like decide what you want and concentrate on that quite often. And it can be helpful to have goals away from, because I first started, I don't want to be in debt anymore. But then I started to concentrate on a goal towards to. They are much more empowering. Where do I want to be? So, like declutter, then decide what you want. And focus and take inspired action, as you mentioned, inspired action towards what you wish to have, towards your dreams, towards your goals. And surround yourself with positivity. So people who will, like really lift you up, see opportunities rather than, the lack of it. Yeah. And be intentional about it. Yeah. And be ready to receive it as well, because quite often, like you said, people are not ready to receive, so they dismiss it. So if the door is closed, how can something come to you? Yeah. And like I said, be it to see it. So we have to first be it, truly embody it, don't overcomplicate it, like there is no need to overcomplicate it. Just naturally feel it. You can do, some people, like you said, can do dance. Some people do tantra. Some people do meditation. Some people go to nature. Some people, do visualizations. Whatever works for you, whatever helps you to embody that of which you wish to be more of, then do that. Because quite often we work from, when I have this, then I can do that, and then I will be that. And we need to actually swap be and have and think about, who do I need to be more of today so that I can do, so that I can have.
I love that. Perfect last sentence from Tatiana. And it was lovely talking to you. I'm going to put your Clubhouse handle, because Tatiana now loves to speak on Clubhouse, and her Facebook page into the show notes. So feel free to connect with her. She's a very empowering human being. Feel free to ask for her services. Feel free to listen to her advice on Clubhouse.
Thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful having you. Until the next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Did you like this podcast episode? Then I would be super, super grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Super helpful. And please subscribe to the podcast and share it with people who you know can benefit from it. You can find all links to my social media profiles, my website, and contact form in the show notes. And whenever you're ready to take a next step, and that means you want to live a life of more on all levels, then send me a message with where you want to go and what is keeping you where you are, like what keeps you stuck at the moment. And then I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode, much love to you, Lydia.